On July 14, 1789, a pivotal event in French history unfolded as Parisians stormed the Bastille, a fortress symbolizing royal authority. Leading up to this moment, France was gripped by anger and resentment due to economic hardship and rigid class structures. The Bastille, once a fortress, became a symbol of injustice as it held political prisoners and large stockpiles of weapons. Rumors spread that the king's troops were marching towards Paris, intensifying tensions among the citizens. In response to growing unrest, the citizens of Paris sought to arm themselves, targeting the Bastille for weapons and gunpowder. Anticipation built as the crowd swelled outside the Bastille, fueled by a desire for liberation and change. As the crowd formed, calls for justice resonated, marking the dawn of a revolution against tyranny. The citizens organized themselves into a makeshift militia, determined to storm the Bastille and seize its arms. Gathering weapons from local armories, the citizens prepared for confrontation, united in their cause. As dawn broke, the atmosphere was thick with tension, and cries for liberty echoed through the streets. At the Bastille, the governor, Bernard-René Delaunay, braced himself for the impending attack from the enraged crowd. With cries of liberty resounding, the citizens charged towards the Bastille, grips tightened around their weapons. The guards at the Bastille, initially confident, soon realized the enormity of the crowd gathering outside. As the clash began, gunfire echoed through the streets of Paris, marking a decisive moment in history. The citizens pressed on, compelled by anger and desperation, determined to claim victory against their oppressors. In an act of courage, a revolutionary leader rallied the citizens to fight, inspiring those around him. The storming of the Bastille was brutal. The people fought tooth and nail to gain access to the fortress. Finally, after hours of struggle and conflict, the gates of the Bastille were breached, bringing the citizens a moment of triumph. Inside, the citizens discovered arms and ammunition. Their victory solidified in the wake of the storming. The fall of the Bastille became a symbol of the people's uprising against tyranny and the beginning of a new revolutionary era. Word of the storming spread throughout Paris and beyond, igniting further revolutionary fervor among the oppressed. In the days that followed, the impact of the storming of the Bastille was felt across France as movements sparked everywhere. Louis XVI, reflecting on the events, realized the magnitude of change brewing within his kingdom, leading to his concern. Marie Antoinette, too, felt the tremors of discontent, deeply troubled by the growing public unrest. The storming of the Bastille marked a definitive escalation in the conflict between the monarchy and the populace. This event laid the foundation for the French Revolution, influencing the future of democracy in the world. As dawn broke over Paris, the streets echoed with whispers of dissent, citizens gathering in clusters to discuss rumors of impending troop movements, their faces tense with anxiety and determination. Louis XVI sat in his opulent palace, reviewing reports of civil unrest in Paris, a furrow of worry etched across his brow as he pondered the ramifications of escalating tensions within his kingdom. In the heart of Paris, a revolutionary leader rallied the spirits of the gathered citizens, passionately urging them to take action against oppression, igniting a fervor to reclaim their rights and dignity. Meanwhile, the discontent among common citizens grew palpable as everyday struggles continued, with families facing hunger and oppressive taxes, leading to anger directed at the monarchy's excessive luxury. As locals took up arms, the sound of muskets being loaded filled the air. They formed makeshift militias, embodying the revolutionary spirit that began to take root in the hearts of the oppressed citizens. A governor of the Bastille, Bernard-René Delaunay, received news of the growing mob outside, hurriedly reinforcing defenses and contemplating which strategy would safeguard the fortress and its arsenal. As the crowd's numbers swelled, their chants grew louder, united under the cries of liberty, with banners waving and voices echoing the call for freedom from tyranny over the oppressive rule of the king. Determined to respond decisively, the people began to arm themselves with whatever they could find, turning ordinary tools into symbols of resistance against their oppressors. As the sun hung high in the sky, the clash began, citizens undeterred by the gunfire that rang out, as they surged forward chanting for liberty, fueled by a shared desperation to end centuries of oppression. The Bastille's defenders, loyal to the crown, readied themselves for the onslaught, their resolve tested as they braced for an unprecedented confrontation with the enraged populace. As gunfire erupted, fear and adrenaline surged through the crowd. Friends and neighbors fought side by side, striving for a common purpose that united them against their oppressors' opened fire. Despite suffering losses, the crowd persisted, barriers of fear slowly disintegrating as each moment brought them closer to the realization of their revolutionary dream for a better future. Finally, after hours of fierce fighting, the gates of the Bastille were breached. The ecstatic roar of victory erupted from the crowd as they poured through the doors into the stronghold. Inside the Bastille, the citizens discovered arms and gunpowder, plunging the struggle for freedom deeper into the heart of the revolution, fueling their resolve to dismantle the old regime. Word of the Bastille's fall spread like wildfire through Paris, igniting a fervor that echoed through the streets, empowering more citizens to join the revolution against the monarchy's rule. As rumors of unrest reached Versailles, Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette exchanged worried glances, aware that their power was slipping and that their once unchallenged reign faced unprecedented threats. The king convened his ministers. Anxious discussions ensued regarding troop movements and measures needed to regain control over the increasingly volatile and revolutionary landscape of France. The revolutionary leader, energized by the success at the Bastille, called for meetings throughout the city, urging citizens to sustain their momentum and prepare for continued resistance against royal oppression. As more citizens joined the revolution, bonds between Parisian commoners grew stronger, fueled by shared dreams of liberty, equality, and fraternity, the foundational principles of a new France. Far from the capital, the news of the Bastille's fall reached peasants in the countryside, sparking uprisings and demonstrations as frustration boiled over their own grievances with landowners and the monarchy. The Bastille's fall marked a critical turning point as citizens began to imagine a future free from tyranny, infusing their actions with a sense of justice and a determination to reshape society into one based on equality. As the sun began to set over Paris, a palpable sense of urgency filled the air. The citizens, invigorated by their victory, gathered to consolidate their achievements and strategize their next steps against the monarchy. Meanwhile, within the royal palace, Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette held a tense meeting. The gravity of the day weighed heavily on them as they contemplated the unrest spreading beyond their control. As rumors of the Bastille's fall spread, revolutionary fervor ignited across Paris. Citizens, inspired by their neighbors, prepared to join the fight for liberty, transforming the city into a hotbed of rebellion. In the aftermath of the Bastille's storming, a sense of camaraderie emerged among Parisians as they shared their stories, strengthening the bond between the working class and aspiring revolutionaries. As night fell, the city organized checkpoints and vigilance committees, establishing order within the chaos after the storming of the Bastille, determined to uphold their hard-won freedoms. Louis XVI, feeling the pressure mount, issued orders to loyal troops stationed near the city. However, this move was met with uncertainty as soldiers began to question their loyalty to the crown. Across Paris, gatherings transformed into planning sessions where revolutionary leaders mapped out strategies, aiming for unity among the people as the thirst for freedom grew stronger. As people continued to rally, pamphlets calling for revolution circulated through the streets, reaching the ears of those who remained skeptical about the uprising against the monarchy. In the royal court, Marie Antoinette, attempting to downplay the unrest, conversed with advisors who warned of the growing discontent, causing a rift between her and the king. As Parisian enthusiasm grew, citizens began claiming rights from local councils, demanding more representation and control over their futures, echoing the cries for liberty heard at the Bastille. Determined to quell the riots, the king's advisors urged Louis XVI to take decisive action, but the king hesitated, fearing violent backlash and a loss of his authority. Back in Paris, the atmosphere shifted from fear to resolve, with more citizens pledging their allegiance to the burgeoning revolutionary ideals, creating a strong front against the monarchy. As warring factions began to form in Paris, the focus shifted to the plight of the poor, leading to greater support for the revolution from all societal classes, uniting them under a common cause. As clashes continued, they became more organized, with informal meetings to discuss the revolution's future direction, crafting plans for reformation in the governance once led by the monarchy. With tensions at their peak, the common citizens readied themselves for potential retaliation from the crown, stocking supplies and plotting further actions for their cause. The perseverance of the citizenry inspired even more to join the cause, leading to a wave of activism across social classes, challenging the traditional structures of power. Despite ongoing efforts to silence the voices of dissent, pamphleteers continued disseminating ideas of revolution, fueling the fire of rebellion in ever wider circles of society. As rebels grew bolder, demonstrations reached new heights. Lions were called to arms as crowds demanded the acknowledgement of their rights from the monarchy and local nobles alike. Though the king remained steadfast in his authority, the cries for change resonated deeply among the populace, who were now more unified than ever, emboldened by one another's resolve. Through all the upheaval, revolutionary sentiments spread beyond Paris, igniting sympathetic responses in rural areas, creating a nationwide movement against royal rule and the feudal system. Meanwhile, international observers began to recognize the escalating crisis, with other nations watching closely to see how the situation in France would unfold and affect Europe's political landscape. As the revolutionary sentiments solidified, debates surrounding equality, representation, and justice took center stage, setting the ground for future revolutionary ideologies that would shape the course of history. The storming of the Bastille on July 14, 1789, came to be recognized as a symbol of the fight against tyranny, marking the onset of the French Revolution that laid groundwork for democracy in France and beyond.